In 2015, with a matchup between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, the Workers' Families Party, an organization in New York, chose Bernie Sanders to a tune of 87%. Fast forward to 2019, and that same Workers' Family Party ends up choosing Elizabeth Warren, saying that she got 60% within the first vote. Now, many Sanders supporters wouldn't have taken issue with this one way or the other because the WFP is not a major organization in the sense that they carry a massive amount of weight. However, it was curious into the way that Sanders could get that much against Clinton, but then lose against Warren in the vote tally. There are problems with this vote. Some dealing with issues of transparency, some dealing with issues of outright corruption. And I definitely want to talk about it. This video will be relatively quick. However, I do want to draw attention to something that is relatively dodgy. My issue with this is that mainstream media ran with the story saying that, oh my God, they chose Sanders by this much and now they're choosing Warren. I mean, maybe there's a sea change in what lefties want. What the question? What was the vote tally of leadership, meaning management, the people in charge? And what was the vote tally of the members? We don't have that answer, even though they gave us that answer in 2015. There are problems with the endorsement of WFP. Again, those problems in some degree stem from corruption, in some degree stem from transparency. In either case, this is something that we need to delve into and discuss. Welcome to an early morning, blurry-eyed soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, you find yourself coming back here often, please like, share, subscribe. Also, you can support this content through PayPal or Patreon. These videos are demonetized pretty much automatically at this point. So in real terms, this content is brought to you by you. And I appreciate you for allowing me to do it. No, I don't like to say it, just kind of part and parcel for the course at this point. So Elizabeth Warren is running in the Democratic primary. Now, Warren has, for the most part, hid under Sanders' wing and just aped his policies. Now, the Democratic Party and many of the people in the Democratic Party consider Warren to be a cuddler version of Bernie Sanders. They think Sanders will be an existential threat to the way we go about our processes in this country, not to mention an existential threat to what it means to even just be a Democrat at that point, moving the hegemonic viewpoint of those things further to the left. Sanders is a threat. Warren is safe. I think what you find in this is that the organization of WFP, and again, you shouldn't be too surprised at this particular vote. I mean, these were the guys that voted for Crowley over AOC, and they voted Crawley over AOC, and they also voted for Cuomo over Cynthia Nixon. So choosing the establishment's pick is not entirely all that shocking for an organization that called itself Workers and Families. You would think they would choose the candidate that has the best policy prescription, the best orientation and vision and policy. You would think that they would just choose the candidate who's best at that, and that would be a Sanders. Nevertheless, that's not what they chose. Before we get into some of the weirdness, you must understand how they endorse a candidate. Supposedly, this is a vote. Leadership gets 50% of that vote. Membership gets 50% of that vote. Understands what that means. You're never going to have more leaders than members. And oftentimes, you have a very small amount of leaders as opposed to the members. I mean, think of the number of members you have in Congress. 535? How many people do you have in the country? 320 million. No, you're not going to have that number of dynamics. I'm more so giving that to show the ratio from the standpoint of leadership to people in the country. And my point is that leadership is always going to be a much tinier subset of the larger group. 50% weight, meaning that tiny subset of the larger membership gets 50% of the weight of a vote tally. So it makes all the sense in the world to ask the basic question, what did the membership choose? What did the leadership choose? Because it's very possible that the membership could have went 80% to Sanders with leadership dragging it towards Warren. They didn't release the vote tallies between the two, meaning between leadership and between membership. However, that tally could have been a large amount for Sanders. And again, leadership could have literally dragged the vote tally to Warren despite having a potential outsized voting of Sanders. Understand why I say this. Because there's no reason for them not to release the vote tallies. They say it's secrecy. They've been lying remorselessly. In 2015, there was an issue of secrecy. You show what the members voted. You show what the leadership voted. The only reason that they would go about this particular tact of this non-transparency and not showing the different vote tallies is because they want to be a united front and they don't want to show this embarrassing ratio where the leadership, small subset, drags the vote towards Warren. They don't want to show that. I would imagine they're even somewhat embarrassed by that. And so in 2015, they can show both because both work in benefit of Sanders. And this one, you probably have a large outsource for Sanders and a small subset for Warren, with the small subset dragging the larger. Kind of like superdelegates, where you get the leadership and outsized influence in the ultimate tally. There's no reason for the leadership to get this influence in the tally, and yet it's there nonetheless. Now, if leadership did this for their own reasons, I don't like it. I think there's a problem with the leadership being able to drag the vote tally in such a way, and yet it is what it is. Corruption is different though, right? There are 45,000 reasons why the Workers' Family Party would choose Warren. Did you know, and I'm going to assume that you don't because WFP didn't disclose this, but did you know that an organization called Demos, think tank, contributes to Workers' Families Party? You probably didn't know that. Did you know that that group donated $45,000 to Elizabeth Warren? Donated $45,000 to WFP, meaning the think tank Demos donated $45,000 to the Workers' Family Party. Now, so what, you may say? So what, Jamarl? What do I care if WFP got donations of $45,000 from this think tank? What if I also told you that Elizabeth Warren's daughter is chairman of this think tank? Would that change your mind in regards to the $45,000? Meaning, if Warren's daughter is chairman of this think tank, Demos, and this think tank is giving $45,000 to Workers' Families Party, does this create an impetus for the leadership of the WFP to potentially support Warren? Yes. Is this corrupt? Massively so. Did they disclose it? They did not. And this is part and parcel, part of the reason why they chose to be non-transparent and chose to hide the actual vote tally between the membership and leadership. 45,000 reasons, meaning the membership may have chosen somebody based on their political leanings. That's an honest vote. Leadership might have chosen somebody for reasons of corruption. The moment that you have a situation where Elizabeth Warren's daughter is part of a think tank, and that think tank is given tens of thousands of dollars, then right off the bat, you have somewhat of a problem. This is Warren's daughter. Board of Trustees, Amelia Warren Taigi. And this is Demos, the organization itself. If we go up to here, what you can see is that there are multiple donations totaling up to $45,000 from the organization, Demos, that Warren's daughter is chairman of. Even if you're a supporter of Warren, please tell me you see a problem with this. Elizabeth Warren is running in a race with Sanders and 16 or 18 other people. The Workers' Family Party comes up with a vote in order to determine the endorsement, meaning leadership is not just going to say we want this person, they're going to hold it up for a vote. And holding it up for a vote, Warren gets the majority. The leadership of WFP, despite showing it in 2015, meaning the vote tally between membership and between leadership, they don't show it in 2019 and lie saying that this is something that they can't show because they don't want to, it's a secret ballot. They don't tell you that Warren's daughter is head of a board. They gave him $45,000, dollars. They didn't disclose that. Even if you're a Warren supporter, please tell me you can see the conflict of interest here, the massive conflict of interest. This gets worse. Jordan made the point. Jordan Sheridan was saying that he has sources that told him that the WFP were somewhat cash-strapped and that the $45,000 was given with this note that this organization may give them more in the future. This gets worse. How can it get worse? Warren, treasurer, is this guy. Where is it? Right here. Paul Egerman. Paul Egerman is a Democratic rainmaker. What I mean by that is raining dollars. Not only does he himself give tons of money to the Democratic Party, but he also has the capacity to get other people to give tons of money to the Democratic Party. And Warren has put this gentleman as her treasurer, despite the fact of saying we need to stop the interest of money in politics. The interesting thing here is that this gentleman has given tons of money. Right here. Warren selected for a presidential campaign treasurer a man whose contributions ran counter to Warren's statements. Among the most emphatic among the more 20 Democrats running for president against big money in politics. Dubbed, quote-unquote, a personal Pac-Man by politicians by the Boston Globe more than a decade ago, retired software engineer Paul Egerman has quietly established himself as a key benefactor and rainmaker for the Democratic Party. During the 2017-2018 election cycle, he contributed a substantial sums to super PACs, giving a combined total of $920,000 to super PAC, Planned Parenthood votes, and Senate Majority PAC, according to Federal Election Commission records. Egerman also serves as a conduit between Democrats and big dollar political donors. This gentleman is part of the Democratic Alliance, a network of wealthy donors. Egerman in 2014 hosted an My point is this. Egerman, the Democratic rainmaker, is Elizabeth Warren's treasurer. This gentleman that is Elizabeth Warren's treasurer, the Democratic rainmaker, is also a member of Demos. On two fronts, there's a massive amount of corruption in this process, and beyond there being a massive amount of corruption in this process, if you are indeed a Warren supporter, and you are indeed love her talking about campaign finance and all this other stuff, and you honestly believe that there's going to be substantial changes in her administration, as opposed to something like an Obama administration, I would point to you and say people are policy. This gentleman, Egerman, should get across to you that she's not being earnest about her objectives. He will be a Democratic rainmaker, and if she gets out of the primary, he will be finding donors to give her tons and tons of money. And all of the things that you hated about the other candidates will get pushed to the side because this argument of you have nowhere else to go will come into master effect by Warren. The argument being, Donald Trump is more of a threat, so me taking all of this money in the world shouldn't bother you in the least. If that is her policy, and if that's the policy she wants to run with in the general, fair enough. It is what it is. But she should also own that policy in the primary. And the reason she's not owning that policy in the primary is because she wants to stand by side to Sanders and say we're a 1-to-1. When the reality of it is, this is political tricks. It's political gimmick. It's for her to get from point A to point B, political expedience, to get out of the primary by tricking people into believing that she is somehow a 1-to-1 with Sanders on this notion of accepting money and big money and dark money and any other kind of money she can get her hands on in politics. This gentleman shows she's not serious. This gentleman also is part of Demos. Please tell me you understand that this is a problem. And please tell me you understand this is massively corrupt. And whether you're a Warren supporter or not, WFP should be transparent in their vote tallies. WFP should release the tallies between the leadership and between membership. That is the least that they could do. And right now, they are being, or at the very least, this is a show of massive corruption for a campaign that has said she was against corruption. Astonishing. This is public integrity. Elizabeth Warren decries big money in politics. Her campaign treasurer embodies it. People are policy. That's a story for another time. This very specific case is very straightforward and basic. The Workers' Families Party selected Warren. We have no idea what the membership voted. We have no idea what the leadership voted, but it's very likely that the leadership dragged the membership vote tally to give Elizabeth Warren something that the membership would have most likely voted for Sanders. It is now clear that Workers' Families Party was also accepting a large amount of cash from an organization that Warren's daughter was chairman of the board of. Corruption 101. The endorsement is dodgy at best. Media won't touch this, even though what I said appears to be true. I'm putting a link at the bottom. Shout out to Counsel Sam for doing this research and pulling this stuff up. There's more interesting tidbits, but what I gave to you is essentially the accuracy of events and how Warren got that endorsement over Sanders. Like, share, subscribe. And by the way, before I go, there were several super chats that I didn't get the opportunity to read on the other video. He's a great, this is Sifu Schaefer. He's a great actor. Too bad he would not stand by most things that he talked about. Bernie is a master of being controlled opposition. I don't think that's true. I think I think Warren is more likely controlled opposition. Anna Kasparian seems to me is the kind of progressive that cheered when the fair cops under control of the Social Democrats murdered Rosa Luxemburg and Carl Lichbit. She pretends to be a lefty, but when the chips are down, she sides with the establishment, pseudo left. The wild part about this is she will stand on a platform called the Young Turks. The Young Turks is literally a political organization that carried out a massacre, an outright genocide, a Holocaust by every historian of there's always one random, but by the overwhelming majority of historians have called out a Holocaust, genocide. It's not in question per se. It is what it is. Uyghur, for most of his life, disagreed with that notion of a Holocaust and disagreed with historians that called it a genocide. He changed his tune when he got a lot of pushback for that particular position. However, whatever you want to think, and whatever him saying, I rescind this, the truth of the matter is that an Armenian stands under a stage glorifying a group that carried out a massacre of Armenians. And even if you take the Armenian stuff out of it, you still have a situation where it is called the Young Turks, a group that carried that out. You can call it the Young Nazis. You can call it the Young Klansmen. You can call it the Young Hitlers. All of those things will be equal to the Young Turks. And yet, it's there. The banner is there. They go by that name nonetheless. And they would still get on stage and castigate people for supporting the Redskins. Here's the catch. Even if you want to say you think it was a political movement that was a reform or reformers in Turkey, and you want to go by that, you can make an argument that Hitler had all sorts of reforms in Germany. Just because he had all sorts of reforms doesn't necessarily mean you ignore the fact that he committed a Holocaust. And in fact, between the reforms and the Holocaust, it's the Holocaust that matters more. I would make the same argument for the Young Turks. I don't understand how they have a banner that they get under and call themselves the Young Turks when that organization was responsible for an outright genocide. That is always weird to me. That is always bizarre to me. The audience gives them a pass. Many of the people in this country don't even know the history of these guys. Cenk Uygur knows the history of the Young Turks. even though he may ignore it and he may deem that the Holocaust mattered less than the reforms. I would imagine there's some Nazis that take the same position. I am not one of those people that do. If they committed a Holocaust, that matters more. Full stop. Carter Blunt. I wonder if Cenk ever renounces denial of the Armenian genocide. I don't ever recall him acknowledging it, even when lots of people were calling him out for it. So Cenk wrote several articles denying the Holocaust. After he got a lot of pushback on it, he came back and said, I essentially rescind what I said. Well, rescinding what you said is not the same thing as saying that you believe that the Holocaust took place. Keep in mind, he's Turkish. And in Turkey, the Holocaust thing wasn't something that they accepted. Meaning they didn't go with the notion that the Holocaust was a genocide. And he, for the longest time of his life, also went with that notion. Whether he believes it was a genocide or not now, that is in question. He has rescinded it, but, people can rescind it just because of pressure. It doesn't necessarily mean they believe what they take back. All right, I'm going to end this here. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks all.